All right, let's talk about the magic behind tools like ChatGPT. You've probably used it, right? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on what's really going on under the hood. We're talking about large language models, or LLMs. So let's just jump right in.
So here's the big question, the one everyone's asking. Does an AI like ChatGPT really understand you? I mean, you type something in and bam, you get this perfect, witty, or super insightful response. It feels like it just gets you, right? But does it? Really? Well, you know what? Let's put that to the test.
Okay, so to really poke at this, I threw a pretty creative challenge at it. I gave it a prompt that wasn't just about facts, it needed to get nuance, culture, and even character. The challenge was this: explain quantum physics to a 5-year-old in the style of a Bollywood villain. Yeah, pretty specific, right? And you won't believe it. In literally seconds, it came back with this gem, just dripping with dramatic flair. Beta, dunya energy se chalti hai, which means, my child, the world runs on energy. It was perfect, it was hilarious, and honestly, it felt intelligent. But hang on a second. This is where the whole illusion kind of shatters. Think about it. The AI hasn't watched any Bollywood movies. It has no idea what a villain is, and it definitely doesn't get the humor. So if it's not understanding any of that, what in the world is it actually doing?
And here's the absolute key to the whole thing. It's not thinking. It's not understanding. It's pattern recognition on a scale that is just mind-boggling. It has digested billions of sentences from the internet. So it doesn't know what a villain is, but it knows the statistical pattern of how a villain talks, the drama, the word choice, the whole vibe. And then it just mimics that pattern. So yeah, that brings us to the core idea here. Prediction, not understanding. We have to completely shift how we think about this. It's not an artificial brain that understands stuff. It's a powerful engine that just predicts. Seriously, the best way to think about a large language model, or LLM, is as an incredibly powerful autocomplete. You know when you're texting and your phone suggests the next word? It's basically that, just on steroids. It's constantly just predicting the next most likely token, which is just a fancy word for a piece of text, based on all the text that came before it. Here's another way to look at it. Picture a genius jazz pianist. They haven't memorized every song ever written, right? No way. Instead, they've internalized the patterns of music, the scales, the chord progressions, the rhythms, and because they know those patterns so well, they can improvise something totally new that still sounds amazing. Well, that's exactly what LLMs do. They just improvise with language. Okay, next section. How companies use LLMs today. So you might be thinking, all right, if it's just a fancy pattern matcher, how is this thing completely changing entire industries? Great question. Let's look at some real-world examples, because this is where the prediction engine turns into serious business value. All right, let's start with finance. Check this out. Morgan Stanley built an AI assistant for its 16,000 wealth managers. They fed it all their internal research reports. Now, an advisor can just ask it a question, and it instantly searches and summarizes thousands of dense reports. It's not thinking. It's just acting like the fastest research assistant on the planet. Or how about customer service? Klarna deployed an AI agent that's now handling the workload of 700 human agents. 700? How? It's just predicting the most helpful response to a customer's query by looking at patterns in the company's help documents and all the successful past conversation. Let's look at education. Duolingo, you know the language app? Their Duolingo Max feature uses GPT-4 for conversation practice. Now here's the thing, the AI isn't actually fluent in French or Spanish. It's just insanely good at predicting what a native speaker would probably say next. It's all patterns. This one is huge. In healthcare, the Mayo Clinic is saving its doctors 1 to 2 hours every single day. How? An LLM listens to the natural conversation between a doctor and a patient and automatically drafts the structured clinical notes. But notice the really important part here. It's a language converter, not a doctor. It's not diagnosing anything. Top law firms are getting in on this too. They're using a tool called Harvey AI to instantly research case law and even draft the first version of a contract. But, and this is a big but, the crucial final step is always a human lawyer who provides the final review and signs off. And one last one, e-commerce. Shopify has a tool called Sidekick that helps merchants write product descriptions and marketing emails. Why does it work so well?
because it has mastered the patterns of language that actually convince people to buy something. It's a conversion copywriter on demand.
All right, so we just flew through a bunch of examples. Let's talk about the secret to success here. Did you spot the pattern connecting all of them? Because it's not random. These companies aren't just opening up ChatGPT and crossing their fingers. There's a very clear formula they're all following.
Okay, here it is. The secret sauce has 3 key ingredients. 1. Domain-specific training. They're not using a generic model, they're training it on their own private, specialized data. 2. A human in the loop. There is always a person there to check, edit, and approve the work. And 3. Narrow, defined tasks. They aren't telling the AI to run the business. They're giving it a very specific, limited job to do.
And this really gets to the core lesson of how to use these things properly. Let the LLM create the first draft. Let humans make the final decision. Think of the AI as your super-powered intern. Its job is to generate the first 80% of the work, the rough draft, the summary, the ideas. But that last, critical 20%, the judgment call, that always has to be human.
And you need that human judgment because, trust me, these things will go wrong. They have some serious weaknesses. They hallucinate, which is a nice way of saying they make stuff up that sounds plausible but is totally false. Their knowledge is often outdated. They have zero real-world grounding, and oh yeah, they are terrible at math and logic. But on the flip side, where they are absolutely brilliant, is at anything involving those language patterns we talked about. Summarizing text? A breeze. Drafting emails? Done. Rewriting content in a different tone? Easy. Translating, generating ideas, basically any repetitive task that's heavy on language, an LLM can just crush it in seconds.
So, that brings us to the most important part of this whole conversation, your role in an AI world. With a tool this powerful, what does that mean for us? For you? Where do we fit into this new picture?
Well, your role becomes crystal clear when you put human strengths right next to the AI's weaknesses. The LLM has zero common sense, but you apply judgment. The LLM can't verify if something is real, but you validate the facts. You are the one who brings the context, the ethics, and the real-world wisdom that the machine just doesn't have.
And that's really the big takeaway here. LLMs bring the speed. You bring the sense. And together, that combination, that is the real superpower. It's not about the machine replacing you, it's about the two working together.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. For the first time ever, the tyranny of the blank page is kinda over. The AI can write the first draft of, well, pretty much anything. So the new question, the really interesting question for all of us is this: what will you do with the final word?